Mr. Azfar Hassan is the CEO of Matrix Sourcing, Triple Tree Solutions, and Intermoda brands. He has a background in industrial engineering, but has been involved with the apparel and textile as an entrepreneur and innovator. Asfar started his career by bringing Levi's to Pakistan in 1989, but then proceeded to set up his own company to help global brands source from Pakistan. Today, Mr. Asfar is going to talk about better, faster, cheaper. Industry transformation starts with a clear vision. Please, sir.
Welcome, everyone. I want to thank Yusuf for putting this together. It's a fantastic forum, which we need to bring more awareness in the industry on current issues and a little more enlightenment on where to go. So I was asked by Yusuf to pick a subject, and I kind of looked back into what I presented last year. And I could have easily brought that same presentation here today because we're almost at the same place, the same issues apply. Unfortunately, we're lost in our policies and our strategy. We don't evolve and move forward. So anyway, I put together something for this time, and I thought it might be best to address the topic with better, cheaper, faster, and strategies to implement. And I think what better way than to show what we are doing as a company, and then I will talk a little bit about how policies can affect and we can progress. So a little bit about our company. We are Matrix. That's our primary company. And at Matrix, we're a matchmaking company between buyers and sellers. So we represent some of the bigger retailers and brands in Pakistan for their buying. And we watch over their business for quality, delivery, social compliance, etc. And these are some of the brands that we service over the years. We service them in the US, we service them in Europe. Our job is basically to filter out what products Pakistan should be selling to them, and basically from there we bring the factories on board and we manage the relationship by bringing in a continuous improvement process through lean manufacturing, quality assurance, etc. Basic functions are to make sure that the product is delivered at the right quality at the right time. We've also invested a lot in technology ourselves, and we've been developing tools for our own business, which have evolved and developed, and now we're selling some of those tools globally to other people. There's a lot of use of technology for the process management, and basically these tools are used with the advancement in technology, so have the systems evolved and developed, and it's all based on very visual inputs and real-time data management with a lot of transparency in it. As you can see, there are dashboards that give you live performance. We also have incorporated new technology with Internet of Things, IoT devices, which are linked directly for color management, for measurements, etc. And again, these are things that we've done to upgrade ourselves, but we're also selling these solutions globally through a company called Triple Tree, which we launched. Now, speaking of evolution, one of the trends out there is that it's not just, and I heard, Holger Fischer also mentioned this thing about sustainability. It's not about the product anymore. People want to feel that association with the product, how it's made, who made it, how well it's made, and what are the conditions under which it's made. So, in that way, a lot of the brands are evolving and changing, and so is the behavior of the consumer towards the product. They're not just buying a piece of the product, they're buying the soul of the product at the same time. So the other big change in the environment is, globally, is a shift towards the digital economy. And as we can see, there's a big shift towards using more and more mobile phones, mobile technology, social media, etc. And here you can see that some of the older companies that were in the business have this is a chart showing you what kind of engagement they get on the social media. And you can see some of the recognized brands like Prada, Zara, Dior, Ralph Lauren, their level of engagement with the consumer is a lot less than some of the new players in the field who have 20, 30 times more engagement. And these brands are more aware of the social issues and create a story with the consumers where these brands are more healthy and more alive. And I just want to mention that just from all of this, we derived our own business model where we've created a digital brand, and it's a women's fashion brand starting from Pakistan, but we're expanding it to other areas, regions, and countries. And it's based around fast, not just fast fashion, but hyper fast fashion. And by hyper fast, I mean from order to delivery, it's 3 days, and there is no minimum, We design about 65 articles on the average per month, all digitally designed. It's only possible because of the digital innovation, and we launch these in 3 chapters. So we're actually doing 36 launches a year, which means every week the consumer gets to see something new and fresh. This is, currently we have 120,000 followers on social media, but that's just, that data is about 2 or 3 months old. We are only 2 years old. Right now we're at about 150,000 followers. And the number of followers is directly proportionate to your sales also. We've got 2 concept stores and we're launching more. Here is a little bit, look and feel for, what we do. So it's a complete vertical operation from design to, social media management, the PR. We've got our own customer response team. Everything is integrated. We create stories, and it's a connection with the consumer also. So these are some of the examples of the stories. We pick women who are talented, we bring them, we highlight their lives. It's not about the product, it's about them. And it's about connecting the consumer with people like them. So we have client diaries, we have our own, we bring our own team to the consumer as well. We talk about their lives on our portal. And I'll just take you forward to the next slide. Yeah. So here are some of the examples of how we do it. We've got a fan page. We have brand ambassadors. We bring in Instagram influencers into our to work with our design team, and they develop a product in their own name, and we launch that. So again, it's finding people, common, ordinary people, and touching their lives and connecting them with the consumers. The brand is, and here's another example of women empowerment, where we bring in talented women and we showcase them on our social media sites. So moving forward. So here's a girl who's an artist, there's a singer, there's a girl who's taking on dancing as a hobby, and they're all like connecting, and they're showcasing their talents. We subscribe to some of the best trend forecasting services, so we're connected to what's happening globally with fashion trends, etc. And like I said, we have teams for everything, and we're completely vertical in-house. It's also an example of how an SME can enter the business and do very well. And we're using a lot of digital technology in this, a lot of innovation, 3D technology for virtualization, and that eliminates the time for making samples, eliminates the cost of making samples, and that's how we're into the hyper fashion mode. Here's like an example of how we create the product. And we have, the fabrics are emulated very accurately on the 3D virtualization because the fabric coordinates are scanned. It goes into the avatar, it's placed, it's digitally stitched, and the fabric behavior is exactly that of the real fabric. We're also starting to scan the fabrics to create digital fabric libraries where you can see them in different light conditions and also with the color. So we track our production on different dashboards, and even the quality process is mapped digitally. Basically, all our teams can be monitored. All the samples are in the system. It's very, again, it's available as and when you need the information. Here's an example of what we've done with the 3D design, and we've gone into active wear and athleisure. And from what we've done in Pakistan, the same concept, we're going into the influencer market in the US, where we're picking up influencers and helping them design a product for their own name and brand. And as they design it, we set up a website. This is a product made by us, worn by somebody who's an influencer in the US with 2 million people following them. And basically, we set up a page where the product can be bought. And we generate sales and we ship on demand. So there is no inventory, no goods stuck, and we sell at full retail price. Behind this is a microfactory we manufacture ourselves, and the microfactory is basically a factory that is designed to produce very, very fast. So you basically, it's the same concept as feeding paper into your printer, and out comes the fabric printed. The print files come directly from our 3D designs that are generated. And then we've gone omni-channel with some of our stores. So the stores basically help the consumer touch, feel the product, and to pick it up, but we still sell online mostly. Only 40% of our sales are currently from the stores and 60% from our online. There's a lot of technology in play in all aspects, so there's a lot of use of technology across all this to speed up things and to create the value for the consumer. And the e-commerce platform is growing very rapidly. This shows you the trend in the e-commerce fashion industry, which is likely to hit over $713 billion by the year 2022. And this is where, the upcoming trend is moving towards. So this brings me to the topic of what are future trends and where is the industry going. So some of the key drivers, the industry, we're still talking cotton and the industry, the way it's made, but it's moving rapidly towards higher speed, more transparency, mass customization, which means smaller lots, brand ownership. People want to connect with the brands, circular economy, less wastage, and digitization. When we talk of strategy and policy, we need to understand that it has to come together to be more meaningful by clarity of vision. So it's important that we as a nation develop a vision to be very clear, given where the markets are moving and what the trends are, that we can strategize for our industry. And in this, the critical elements are, first of all, we've got the stakeholders, and I say that when we develop policy, it's a very general, we develop a general policy, which is meant for everyone. But these days, there's a big separation between the SMEs and the large-scale industries. I think more than 50% of Pakistan's export is coming from maybe 10 or 15 or 20 plants, which are producing more than $200 million of product each. Naved is an example, but I can name those 10 factories on my fingertips. But what's happening with the SME sector? They are not receiving any support, and there's nobody looking after them. And while our exports have remained the same, the big boys have grown bigger, but the smaller ones have faded away. We need to pick that up because a lot of the innovation and creativity comes from the SMEs. Similarly, we need 3 important areas to hit on. Our image, that has been the #1 factor. For 15 years, nobody's been traveling to Pakistan, and somehow we need to fix that situation because unless you have visitors coming to Pakistan, you cannot pick up the industry, and for that, it's important that we correct the image in the markets. The other thing is cost reduction and efficiency. We are still producing with the same archaic methods, except for some of the bigger factories who've rubbed shoulders with the big customers who've taught them about lean manufacturing and other methods. Generally, the industry is on the same standards as it was 20 years ago. And then innovation. We need to be more creative. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then when we develop strategy and policy, it should be immediate, short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Long-term meaning 2 to 5 years. So here's a profile of what Pakistan looks like on a spider diagram with everything that's important for buyers to come to Pakistan, which means ability to provide an FOB price, tariff advantage, compliance, sustainability, production quality, efficiency, lead time, reliability, ability to create basic products, financial stability, vertical integration, political stability, flexibility of
चलिए
order
जी
quantity,
प्रोग्राम को
etc.
अब थोड़ा सा स्टार्ट करते हैं तो
So some of the lows we have,
मैं जो कल कराची का जो है इवेंट
the lows we have are political stability, financial stability, and innovation. Our strength is we give a very cheap price to the world on the products we make. There's flexibility in the order quantity. We've got factories that can produce small quantities, factories that can produce large quantities. And our production quality is reasonably good, especially in the denim side. And then our lead times are good because we're a vertical country. And again, when we generate policy at the government level, it's a general policy for the industry, but we have to keep in mind that the SMEs require special handling and the large players require special handling. They've got separate issues. When we come to productivity, I think, like we had a national productivity organization that used to exist. The government scrapped that. In Sri Lanka, before the WTO went away, before 2005, in the year 2001, 2002, they made it the year of productivity, and they hit that very hard. And today, you see Sri Lanka emerging as one of the best players in efficiency in the subcontinent. We have no focused attention on productivity. We suggest that we revive something like the NPO that used to exist, and also provide an advisory cell along with benchmarking and provide feedback to the industry as to where they are with efficiency and productivity. Similarly, like Pakistan is very weak when it comes to inputs, and we are making products that are made all internally. When we talk about Bangladesh, it's done well because it's been able to import fabrics from outside or materials from outside, and the domestic market's grown as well. But our customs are a pain to deal with to bring in anything. Today I had some printing machines arrive, and the customs opened it up. By the time we got it in Lahore, the machines were bashed up. So this is examples of why we cannot survive with the kind of customs we have. Very archaic rules, a lot of paperwork, etc. Similarly, labor laws need to be amended, and so we should be ready for the next generation of labor compliances, which allows for freedom of association. Industry 4.0 is coming, which means the merger of data with manufacturing. We're not ready for it. And again, we need experts to come in and help us. So this is an example of what Indonesia did, and they have already embarked on a massive plan for the industry to move towards Industry 4.0 by using the, getting into the Internet of Things, robotics, big data and cloud computing, human-machine interface, and advanced production methods. So there is a plan, there is a method to the madness. Pakistan, nobody's even thinking about these things. And it's a wave that's coming. On the innovation front, we spoke about cotton. Yes, we have cotton, but it's very limiting. I think it's a curse for most of us who are trying to sell product because it's a limited kind of fabric we can produce, limited blends we can produce. Polyester is the worst kind available in Pakistan. We cannot get our hands on performance polyesters. There's no creativity on the fabric and material side. And also, we've closed our markets to outside fabrics. I think if they start coming in, we learn that we can produce a much better product at a higher value if we could blend performance polyesters with our cottons. Similarly, there needs to be a lot more awareness and conferences like these. I'm happy to know that there's an IAF conference in November where the International Apparel Federation is coming to Pakistan for their annual conference. But it brings in the experts, it exposes us to world trends, what's going on globally. And again, we need to establish some goals for ourselves with technology, with innovation. What should we expect to be doing? And we need to hire consultants, and we need to encourage people to fund their technology by offering lower incentives or lower interest financing. And similarly, there needs to be a technical pool that can go out to some of these people who are into technology. On the image side, so, like I attend a lot of these conferences and speak for our software because it's an innovative tool that's used everywhere. And frequently I run into somebody who's an ambassador for Ethiopia, and she speaks so eloquently about the country. And today Ethiopia is a well-known destination for so many people because they've been represented so well. So we need in these conferences, there's almost no ownership and nobody speaking about Pakistan and what it can do and what it can deliver and what its image needs to be. Similarly, for example, there's a big movement emerging where all the buyers want to converge their compliance standards into an organization like SLCP, which is the Social and Labor Convergence Program. They're going country to country and countries are signing up. We don't even know SLCP exists. So, that's something that needs to be addressed so that we're part of the bandwagon when it comes to social and environmental and sustainability projects. And then, a lot of these countries have people writing for them in journals, news that is positive and news about the industry, but there is no such program for Pakistan. Again, we have a huge opportunity for recycling materials. A lot of our waste is bought by people in other countries and recycled. A lot of the waste coming off cutting machines and spinning mills, etc. These can all be recycled, and that's a great story also. Similarly, clean energy is a great story, and we need to bring in foreign delegates more often so they can take our stories and spread them around the world. Now, when I said earlier that it's important to address issues that separate the SME from the large-scale industry, and the way they'll also back me up on this, that they have unique problems and issues as a bigger scale industry that is not addressed by policy. And they need to be promoted in a different way because the scale is so big. Some of these companies are moving to $500 million a year exports. And we need to be careful with them because their unique issues, if handled, can generate a higher growth rate for these companies and organizations. So within the ministry, there needs to be a service desk for them, especially. And there needs to be, like I speak, as an intermediary, we go into these organizations for audits, and we find that a big pain point for them is all these government bodies coming in to regulate them, and it's all a mess. They achieve nothing, but they, are a nuisance value. At the same time, there are all these fancy certifying bodies that come in to check these organizations. Why can't we use those certifications? Because they're making sure that the labor is well treated, that the water doesn't go into the river, that it's treated before it goes, that they have all kinds of labor laws enforced, that they, so if that's already being done, why is the government stepping in and repeating that same thing and being ineffective? It's a waste of time. So we got to be pragmatic about that. A lot of these companies, the larger ones, cannot survive unless they have MCOs, meaning multi-country operations. The customers today are looking at reducing their risk. Look at what happened in China. They don't want to see a country disappear when they've invested so much time, and they would rather be with companies that have operations in other countries. Pakistan is making it extremely difficult for these companies, the larger ones, to operate in other countries. Integration with universities and educational institutions. We don't combine the research that we do with our universities. There's a huge opportunity to do that. I think, if you look at, schools in Germany and UK, they're closely fused with the industry. They do a lot of creative and innovative work which benefits everyone. And the quality of product, I'm ashamed sometimes to hear, what shows up in the warehouses in the West. We need to be focused on the quality. We need to build it right first time, and we need to create that culture within the organizations to help them do this. For the SMEs, there's an opportunity to create the clusters. We need to reshape the trade organization we have under TDAP to play that role. It can easily be done. And we need to also see if we can run a certified subcontractor program where there's an opportunity for these SMEs to come into the business by being a subcontractor for one of the larger ones. But if it's a certified subcontractor, it would be more acceptable. Similarly, it's a digital environment, and we can save a lot of cost for these people by going digital with their showrooms instead of transporting physical prototypes everywhere. So in the end, I leave you with a question: who are we, and what are our strengths, and what is our story? I think that in general, you will find us very confused. If you ask these questions to our industry, they don't know which way they're going, what direction, and what is our story. It's important that a country and an industry develops a story for itself so that we're consistent when we go in front of the world and portray our industry. Thank you. With that.